Hello and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Dr. Hal, and with me here today, Aidan, introduce yourself.
Hello all, I am AvatarAidan. That's the username I go by, but normally people just call me Aidan. I am a YouTuber. I talk about mostly video games, but I do dabble in the occasional movies and every now and again TV shows.
That's epic. Nice. nice, dude. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have on you, of all people. You. You make the videos. I make the videos. It made sense to have you on. Well, I actually am excited to have you on because you wanted to talk about a couple of things surrounding a very interesting writer. That being, we're basically the theme of today's episode is Dr. Seuss things. And I want to start off with this DVD I have. On Dr. Seuss's Horton Hears a Who, the original 1970 cartoon. You wanted to talk about it. You wanted to pair it with a different movie that we'll talk about later. Let's not get into it now. Let's talk about this specific DVD. I'm actually really excited to talk about this. So actually, why don't you start things off, Aidan? What did you think of specifically the 1970 Horton Hears a Who?
I haven't seen this cartoon in like a decade and a half, so it was kind of like a nostalgia trip going through it again. Mm-hmm. Kind of like in a weird way.
Yes.
And having the knowledge of the 2005 movie, it was in 2005? I believe
it was 2008. You're talking about the Jim Carrey one?
Yeah. But
I think that was 2008.
Because, that's my only other knowledge of Horton Hears a Who media outside of the book. Well, also the good Seussical musical, obviously. But, but it was actually pretty good. It kind of just showed... Well, I could talk about this later with the other thing we're talking about, but it just shows that shorter length Seuss-related media just works better.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, I think one of the few problems I had with this is that I'm not really all that big onto the songs. It's just, I love musicals, but I just never really got... Even with some of the other cartoons that are on this DVD that you have, I still didn't jive with the songs. There's something about them that I just don't really like, but it's I don't know, it's Horton Hears a Who. It's a classic tale about... people committing mass genocide on tiny people.
The classic tale of an elephant and his microscopic friend.
Wait till one of the other cartoons.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting that you bring up the fact that you're not a fan of the musical aspect of this. And in a weird way, I can understand that. Well, what's interesting about this specific cartoon is that for years I didn't own this DVD, but I knew about this specific cartoon is because it played at the end of my How the Grinch Stole Christmas VHS that I grew up watching, because both shorts were directed by Chuck Jones, the legendary animation director, as well as another animation director, Ben Washam. I guess who's not credited on the back of this DVD, even though he is credited on Letterboxd, which is interesting. But anyway, they worked on both these cartoons. And so as a kid around Christmas time, I'd watch the How the Grinch Stole Christmas VHS. And then at the end, it would also play Horton Hears a Who. And so I always associated that with the holidays, even though it's not a Christmas themed short. So it was interesting to watch this years later on its own DVD, not around the holidays. And so it was interesting because then I also got to kind of experience it as its own. Because again, I related it to the Grinch. And so my point is, having seen it on its own, I liked it a lot. Maybe a lot of that does have to do with nostalgia.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So with the musical aspect, the music, I found kind of catchy because I was like, wow, I remember these songs as a kid. Now, I think I'll side with you on that in that they're not amazing songs. They're not, because like when I think of amazing Suess songs, I think of The Grinch. The original 1966 Chuck Jones Grinch special has amazing songs. Like those are practically just, they're practically just Christmas carols at this point, which is huge.
They're all time classics. Like
exactly,
they stood the test of time.
Yes. Whereas here, I think I only like these songs because I grew up with them. I have not gotten that gossipy bird song out of my head over the last few days. After just remembering it, I was like, oh shit, I remember this.
I think that's the one I like the most out of all of them. I think my least favorite was probably, you're probably gonna kill me over this, the Wickersham Brothers song.
How dare you have an opinion?
What do you mean you had an opinion? Do you know who I am?
Shit-talking Yummo Wickersham. I will not stand for this.
I know you and the Shaperless Gang are like all in on the Wickersham.
Well, so here's the interesting thing. We're huge fans of the God Amongst Men, Yummo Wickersham, from the Jim Carrey version, because that's the image we always show is like, Yummo Wickersham with like a million bananas in his mouth. Whereas here, they're just the Wickersham brothers. I don't think name Yummo is ever name dropped here. So
it's non-canon.
Yeah, I'm thinking Yummo Wickersham is like an OG Do Not Steal OC from Jimmy Hayward, the director of the Jim Carrey Horton Hears a Who. Whereas, the Wickershams are just the Wickersham brothers. I mean, to be fair, again, I have Wickersham bias because I am a disciple of our Lord and Savior, Yummo Wickersham. So I get it. Looking at it from an objective standpoint, I can understand someone not relating or liking the Wickersham song. Unfortunately, we are going to have to crucify you after this podcast. I'll let you speak for the rest of the show, but once the recording stops, my friend.
Hey, I survived private school. I think I can manage this.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, the songs, I will agree, though, are not, the best when it comes to Seussicles, Like we were saying, the Grinch songs are easily better.
I actually want to talk about one other Suess. There's actually one Suess short I watched as a kid, and I still remember it vividly. It's Hucklepuff Puff. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. It's a Suess, very Suess name, but it's
it's a very Suess name.
But like it's about this guy who has a magic piano who could just take him anywhere in the world. And I still remember the songs from that. I was thinking about it recently, like, man, the songs are still good and they still apply to the story. I just don't think Horton Hears a Who, like, they still work for the story.
Sure, yeah.
It just doesn't resonate with me as some of the other well-known Suess musical numbers.
Yeah, again, I think it is just a bias thing. Like, I grew up watching this special. It's been well over a decade. Well, no, I watched it a couple of years ago, but, like, it's not one I've seen as often in adult years as I did in kid years, so the songs still resonate with me, but again, that's only because I grew up with them. Like, had I not watched this cartoon as often, I probably wouldn't have connected with them in my later years. So I completely understand that.
Yeah.
I will say I do like this a lot. Just because I think the voice acting is pretty good, all things considered.
It is really good.
The whole thing is narrated by the late great Hans Conried. Conrad. Yeah, something like that. He is most famous for voicing Captain Hook in the original Peter Pan, the original Disney's Peter Pan, which is really random. I remember seeing that on Letterboxd and being like, holy shit. Wow.
I remember you told me that. I'm like, really? Captain Hook, one of the most menacing Disney villains.
Yeah.
is the narrator for a Dr. Seuss short.
Yeah, and he sounds nice and happy because he voices Horton and Dr. Hoovy, the guy that Horton's talking to. So it's like, oh, I mean, that just goes to show you what a talented voice actor he was. He can be this really menacing villain as Captain Hook and really likable characters like Horton and Dr. Hoovy. So
he has a vocal range that most actors, I think, don't really have.
Well, I mean, that's all. The other thing is that he voices both Horton and Dr. Hoovy, but like those characters I never knew as a child were voiced by the same guy. Like, and the fact that the narrator is also the same guy, like it's the same guy with 3 different characters. You know, as a kid, I never got that. I just always thought they were 3 different voice actors.
I mean, that's that's how I think that's, if you're voice acting so good that like you can't distinguish them, you've done a good job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I guess the other, what else do I want to say about this short? I mean, that's the thing, is that it is short.
Really short. It's 25 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that's to the benefit of the movie. You know, because like we've been kind of saying that there is that other Horton Hears a Who, the Jim Carrey version. Mm-hmm. I actually did rewatch that like months ago, like back in November. I rewatched it because again, it was directed by Jimmy Hayward, who is most famous for being the director of Freebirds. And I just wanted to watch a whole bunch of Jimmy Hayward movies leading up to Freebirds. You know, all 3 of them, because he only directed 3 films, and that was Horton Hears a Who, Freebirds, and this other movie called Jonah Hex. All of these other movies need their own episode.
I was about to say, did he direct The Grinch?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't direct. He didn't direct any of the Grinches.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. Exactly. But he directed the Horton Hears a Who, and we don't have to go into too much detail with that movie, but I remember watching it again with the idea in my head that that's the one that people complain about the least when it comes to Seuss, like, feature films made in the 2000s and beyond. Because, like, not that people praise it, but that people complain about it the least. And I watched it thinking it would be, like, the best one, but I was like, wow, this is way worse than I remember. Like, it's
so padded. That's the problem. Well, that's the problem with these. We could talk about this more in the second thing we're going to talk about later in this podcast. But like,
right,
it's padded. That's the problem with these movies.
Yeah, it's too long. I mean, I get it. It has to be feature length, but
and it also has to have like these side characters that just were in the original because we need to appeal to the younger audience by making them like the most annoying motherfuckers on the planet.
Look, kids, this mouse is voiced by Seth Rogen. Hey, Horton, you want to smoke some weed?
Go back to working on TMNT Mutant Mayhem 2, please. Just continue to do that. That's all you're good for. That's all you're good for now.
If anything, yes, I'm fine with that. But yeah, no. So I think it makes for a kind of a simplistic discussion around this short because it's so short. But I feel like I wouldn't want it any other way. I want this Horton Hears a Who cartoon to be, less than 30 minutes. I think that works out just fine. Really go ahead.
It works well because you don't feel it, but like it feels like you're just watching a book come to life. That's what makes it work. Yeah. I feel it's basically a shot-to-shot remake of the book, and that's a good thing. Like, you don't need to change anything about sure, Dr. Seuss is a pretty shady person, let's say, but his books still, they may be weird as fuck and they may sometimes be dark as fuck, but they still work as children's books because they are short, they are simplistic, adults can enjoy them, and they activate the imagination that I don't think most children's books do nowadays.
Yeah, I feel like containing that in just a 30-minute special works a hell of a lot better than a feature film. So, yes, it's a simplistic discussion. I think we can both agree this is a good short. This is a good special.
Yeah.
But that's about it. That's all we can really say about it. Like, it doesn't have the God Amongst Men, Yama Wickersham, but that's okay. You know, it's still a good special. Now, the good news is there are more bonus cartoons on this DVD. Do you want to talk about some of those? Because I have quite a bit to say about. I have quite a bit to say about each of these.
So the 3 other shorts are the Butter Battle Book. Is that the title?
The Butter Battle Book. Yes.
The Battle Book. Daisy Head Maisie, and Horton hatches an egg.
Horton hatches the egg. Yes.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to do first?
I want to talk about Butter Battle Book because that's the most interesting one to me.
In a way, I agree. Well, for starters, let me just say, Butter Battle Book is directed by Ralph motherfucking Bakshi. I love Ralph Bakshi. I am a huge, huge fan of Ralph Bakshi. Even when I don't like his movies, he's such a character, that Ralph Bakshi. We've talked about a movie of his before on this podcast, that being Fritz the Cat. But what's interesting about the Butter Battle Book is that it felt like the most child-friendly Ralph Bakshi thing I've ever seen, which is funny because at first the most child-friendly Ralph Bakshi movie I had ever seen was Wizards, a movie with Nazi propaganda, swearing, boobs, fairy prostitutes. I could go on.
God.
But this one felt even more child-friendly because it was meant for kids. Even still, it's a short that's a metaphor for the Cold War, and it ends pretty dark. So, like, you still get, it still feels, I'm like, by the end of it, I was like, okay, this is very much a Ralph Bakshi cartoon if I've ever seen one. It is honestly the best case scenario if you were to tell me, like, you know, because I didn't know that Dr. Seuss and Ralph Bakshi had collabed, so to speak. I mean, I don't think they met each other. I'm pretty sure it was just Dr. Seuss's estate was just like, hey, Mr. Bakshi, make this cartoon. He's like, okay. And, you know, he didn't put any fairy prostitutes or naked animals in there. He just,
oh God, what the fuck?
He just adapted the source material and had Charles Durning, Doc Hopper from the Muppet movie, narrate. But I still feel like there is that kind of dark, twisted Ralph Bakshi nature hidden in there while still containing that lovable Seuss fluff that we love so much in his books. And so it combines into this 30-minute, basically Cold War.
I didn't see it as a Cold War metaphor. I just saw it as Twitter the short.
Well, it's interesting. Yes, so I understood what you meant. I was because I had never seen this. I'd never even heard of that. Maybe I had heard of it. You know, it was one of those Seuss books I never read as a kid, but I knew it existed. But then you said like, oh, it's Twitter the movie, and I was like, really? And then I watched, and it was just like, oh, we hate people with a different opinion. And it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, that's totally Twitter the movie.
Twitter, Reddit, any social media platform, it works so well as that metaphor.
I think the reason I associated with being a Cold War metaphor is because, you know, it's these warring two sides, butter face up, butter side down. And it's an arms race. Basically, you have these characters like, advancing weapons technology to, like, you know, not even just to necessarily use, but to brag that you are using it, to be like, oh, you step 1 foot into our territory, you do something to piss us off, we're going to use it. And because at the very end of the cartoon, they basically have just like that, like red, like M&M's looking thing. And they're basically saying like, if you drop this, we all die. And so then, you know, Charles Durning's character goes over and he's just like, I got this. And then the other guy on the other side is just like, well, I developed it too. And they both are like holding it. And the special ends with like, I think the grandson of Charles Durning's character being like, who's going to drop it? And they're just like, we don't know. And then it goes like, the end, maybe. And it's just like, oh shit. Like,
I read the original book. It ends the same way. So it's like, I love that ambiguous part because
so
when when I was rewatching it and I was like at the beginning, I'm like, wait, is this like the future and he's telling it from the past, or is it like him just telling what he does for his life and it's a time for like you don't know what exactly happens at the end, and I love that.
Well, and I love that. Who's gonna drop it first? You know, basically what he's saying, who's gonna drop the atomic bomb first? United States or Russia? It's like, whoa. Like, that's kind of a heavy thing to, like, drop on a kid, but I think they handled it the best way, because they're never just like, oh, we represent the United States, oh, they represent the Soviet Union. It's like, no, they stick to it being about these characters fighting for butter side up or butter side down. And I love that that's basically the driving force. It's something so, like, minuscule in importance, you know. It's just like, what do you put the butter on, top or bottom? It's like, okay, butter side down is stupid, but like, who's really getting hurt in that situation? It's just weird at most. Like, that's not something to get angry over.
It's not worth killing an entire species over.
Exactly, but that's the genius of it. So yeah, I really love the Butter Battle book, directed by Ralph Bakshi. That was It was incredible. It was great, and it was only 30 minutes. Like, beautiful. Like, wrapped up in a neat little package. Mm-hmm. It was the animation was a little weird. It was kind of wonky. Like, the characters walked in such weird ways.
It felt like their limbs were moving frame by frame, like one frame at a time. Yeah.
It was strange, but honestly, I'm used to wonky animation from Ralph Bakshi. Again, Wizards, Fritz the Cat. That shit, like, fucking Wizards uses rotoscoping, and by rotoscoping, I mean he just takes live action footage and then just kind of, you know, saturates the footage to make it look like it's kind of animated, but it's really not. Like,
kind of like what they did with, like, Disney's Hercules, I'm pretty sure, with the or am I thinking of something else? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think Hercules used any rotoscoping. Yeah, no. Well, rotoscoping was popular back in the day. I don't think you see it that much anymore. Well, that's not true. There was that one movie. I think it was called like The Spine of Night or something like that. That was like bragging that it was like a return to form. It's like, oh, we're making like a Ralph Bakshi fantasy movie. You know, we're rotoscoping it, and then you watch it, and it's like digital rotoscoping, and it looks like shit. And I'm like, oh. I was kind of hoping this would be like Wizards or Fire and Ice. It's like, no, this is like bad. I was not a fan of Spine of Night.
Well, I haven't seen any Ralph Bakshi movies, but like I was looking at it, I'm like, guys, I don't want to give too much diss, but Tom and Jerry in the 1940s had more smooth animation.
Well, it depends on the movie, of course. I think Fritz the Cat and Wizards, even though they are like kind of rough animation wise, I think it does add to the style. But, you know, I'm not going to say like he's a flawless animator. There are some movies that don't look great of his, but those are episodes for another time. Anything else you want to say about Butter Battle book, or can we move on to the other cartoons?
Not much else to say. I kind of feel the same with the musical numbers. It's they progress the story. They just don't click with me that much. Except for strangely the Butter Side Down song from the beginning. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's something, all right.
I'm with Butter Side Up gang, honestly.
I mean, I think that's the most normal thing you can do. Like, who in their right mind would put butter side down? Like, whatever you scrape on the bottom of the toast is gonna fall down, you know?
Because the butter's gonna melt and then it's gonna go on the table, and it's like that's just move the thing upside down in your mouth if you need to. Like,
if anything, exactly. Whatever.
It's so weird, but that's the charm of Suess. It's weird, but it's great.
I agree. Yes, weird but great.
Next we have
Daisy Head Maisie.
Daisy Head Maisie. This one is jarring. Is probably the best word, because
this one's psychotic.
It kind of is psychotic. Like, so here's the story of this one. a girl she's just minding her fucking she's just minding her day in class, and then
she's just in class.
she's just in class, probably like wondering, oh god, when is summer break? Then a daisy grows on her head, and the fucking entire world's like, bro, what the fuck is wrong with you, basically. And then halfway through the movie, a guy's like, yo, we're gonna make you fucking famous. And then she's like, you know what, sure, why the hell not? And then later it's like, oh my god, no one loves me. I'm like, what the where did this come from?
Oh my god, that's so true. So yeah, so Daisy Head Maisie is narrated by the Cat in the Hat, who looks ugly as fuck in this movie.
Oh my god, yeah. Even watching the Cat in the Hat short and then watching this one's like, name a bigger downgrade in your life.
It was very much a big downgrade. But he's also voiced by the head Illinois Nazi in Blues Brothers, so that was funny.
That is pretty funny.
but yeah, no, and so yeah, basically the story is a little girl's in class, a daisy grows out of her head, and everyone starts making fun of her. So you think like, oh, this is like a bullying lesson. It's like, don't treat people who look differently. Like, like don't bully people because they're different or because they have like a fucking flower growing out of their head. They have like, I don't know, a disability of sorts. It's like, don't be mean to people. It's like, okay. Yeah. And then halfway through, Tim Curry comes in playing this like Hollywood agent. And he's like, all right, see, we're going to make you famous, Daisy. And she's like, okay. And her parents are like, no, don't be famous. And she's like, no, I'm going to be famous. It's like, okay. And then it's like, she's like selling products. She's on the red carpet. And then like at one point she's like, I have all this money, but nobody loves me. Even though that wasn't established. Like, yeah, people were making fun of her at the beginning. Like her classmates were making fun of her. But that's because she had a flower on her head. We don't know what people think of now that she's famous. Like, we know her parents want her back because it shows several scenes of the parents like trying to get through to her. And so then she's like, nobody loves me. And it's like, you literally just had a scene where your parents are trying to contact you. Like, what are you talking about? And then it ends with her like picking the flower. No, not her picking the petals off the flower. The flower itself picking the petals off, being like, they love me not. They love me not. And then they realize, oh, they love me. And then the Cat in the Hat inserts himself into the story. He's just like, yes, Daisy, you are loved. Here, let's fly away on my umbrella. We're going to go find your parents. And they find her parents. And she's just accepted back into society because she no longer has the daisy on her head. But she also learned that she is loved. Even though this is a lesson that was kind of tacked on at the end. This was never set up properly. Oh, but she also has the flower still.
It's mixed messaging. That's the problem with it. It's like, is it a bullying story? No. Is it a love story? Apparently, though, we didn't set it up in the fucking first place.
We set it up as a bullying story. We ended it with a love story. It's like, okay, that's not how it works. But besides the fact that the lessons are all screwed up, the animation's just weird. And
it's very wonky.
Very wonky. Not just like, I mean, the kids look fine. Like the character design, except on the Cat in the Hat, looks fine. It's weird and out there. Yeah, no, it's just weird. It's just a weird looking short, and it's just a weirdly paced short. And again, it ends with, it's just like, oh yeah, she has her flower on her head occasionally, but nobody bullies her anymore because we forgot to give a reason. It's like, what is this?
I feel like people are going to watch this and be like, okay, what metaphor does the daisy represent? Yeah,
that's exactly how I was looking at it. And again, I thought it was bullying the differently abled. Don't do that. But then it's like, no, she picks it apart, it goes away, and she's like, now I know that people love me. It's like, again, when was this established?
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And I had Daisy Head and Maisie stuck in my head for all the wrong reasons. I feel like that's not going to be a trigger in my future.
I thought I was doing okay watching this special, and then the Daisy Head burger showed up, and I was like, nope, I'm not okay anymore. What the fuck is that? Like,
nope, no thank you, bye-bye.
A burger with a daisy growing out of it. How...
That's like the most like Burger King thing you can do.
Oh, besides telling women they belong in the kitchen.
Oh,
If they want to.
If they want to, we have to emphasize if they want to, or we won't be sexist. It's very wait. Is this show like from the 80s or 70s? Hold on,
I think it's from the 90s. I think it's from
Oh.
95. Well, because I guess I should mention this for all the cartoon fans out there. Daisy herself is voiced by the voice actress of Helga Patinky in Hey Arnold.
Arnold.
Yeah.
I've been watching that show. It's really good so far.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen Hey Arnold. But yeah, that's Daisy Head Maisie.
It's probably my least favorite of the shorts in this
Yeah,
DVD.
it's definitely my least favorite, but it's one that was so bonkers that I kind of love it just for that. You
Like,
know?
it's still that Dr. Seuss weird, but I feel like the
Yes.
weirdness kind of... But, like, the weirdness just... Like, it when it switches to a love story, the weirdness just kind of stops. It just stops.
It's just bizarre, and not in the way that I think the special thinks it's being bizarre. Like, I think the special thinks it's being bizarre, but it's even more bizarre than that. And for that's enough for me to say I could watch it again. Just not as often as, the Butter Battle book, or the actual Horton Hears a Who, or Horton Hatches the Egg, which is the last cartoon on this bonus of the bonus cartoons. I want to talk about this one purely because, so first of all, it was actually really interesting watching this because it's a Merry Melodies cartoon. So this was actually the very first animated adaptation of a Seuss story, because it was made in the 40s and it was made by the Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies people, which is, I never thought I'd see that. Like,
wait, is this the Hatches the Egg where the Horton's pink?
Yeah, where Horton's pink.
Oh God, Pink Horton like haunts my nightmares.
Yeah, because he's pink elephants on parade.
Pink elephants on parade, like in Dumbo.
Yeah. So yeah, this one is basically Horton's just walking through the forest, and then some bitch of a lazy mother is just like, I don't want to sit on my egg no more. Horton, sit on my egg. And he's like, okay. And then he sits on the egg, and then months go by, and basically the mother abandoned her child, and Horton's just sitting there, and he's just like, no, I'm doing this because I was told to, and I'll keep doing it. And then some hunters find him in the middle of the forest, and rather than shoot him, they're like, hey, a elephant sitting in a nest. We can sell this to the circus, I guess. So they like, well, and here's the reason why I love this short so much. So they take Horton in a tree, sitting on the nest, they put him on a boat, and they're riding the waves of the sea. And who should show up but a fish with the face of Peter Lorre, famous actor Peter Lorre. And you think, okay, that's kind of a weird thing to put in a children's cartoon. Well, I mean, Peter Lorre was famous at the time, so I get it. It's kind of a pop culture reference. Oh, look, Peter Lorre is a fish. Isn't that wacky and random for the time? But it goes a step further, because Peter Lorre fish goes, well, now I've seen everything, and takes out a pistol and shoots himself, killing himself.
I forgot about that.
I'm going to put that in the episode right now. Like, here it is.
Well, now I've seen everything.
Like, what?
What the fuck?
I love this 10-second clip so much because it is so brutal, so random, so out of nowhere, so has nothing to do with Dr. Seuss or Horton or anything. It's just Peter Lorre fish proclaiming that he's seen everything and shoots himself. You could cut it out of the cartoon and nothing would change. It is so random. And I think they did cut it, because I think I heard that this cartoon was obviously censored in later years because, well, it's a fish shooting himself in a children's cartoon. Like, that's kind of weird to put in there, to say the least. So This was a censored segment. And again, you cut it out entirely, nothing changes. Like, it's not like that fish ever came back, because he killed himself. So, but I am happy to say that this DVD has the uncensored version. So yes, that means children in the 2000s, when they got this DVD, witnessed the Peter Lorre fish proclaiming he's seen everything and promptly shoots himself. So
we 2000s kids were so edgy.
Yeah. The fact that this is in here makes me happy, because I love shit like that, where it's just such unnecessarily dark humor like that in a children's cartoon, no less. Like, there's no way to interpret it. It's literally just, well, now I've seen everything. And then, boom, shoots himself in the head. That's it. That's the joke. Like, that's all you need.
That's something you'll find in fucking Rick and Morty nowadays.
Exactly. But it's in a children's cartoon from the 40s. I love it so much. Look, the short Horton hatches the egg is fine. It's good. It's very, very good. It's good for like a 10-minute Looney Tunes cartoon, or in this case, it's a Merry Melodies. It's good. It's wrapped up in 10 minutes. It ends with that bitch of a bird, like, getting her comeuppance when she realizes her child is not a bird, but it's an elephant with wings. Because I guess, so here's the thing. Horton sits on the egg so long that the thing in the egg is now just an elephant with wings. That's not how sex works, but okay.
That's not how sex that's just not how birds growing up work.
Yeah, that's not at all how it works, but it is a funny visual to be like, Horton sat on the egg for months and out popped an elephant with wings. It's like, okay, that's pretty funny. It's so absurd, it's funny. Much like the Peter Lorre fish shooting itself is so absurd, it's funny.
It's very Suess. That's the best I could say.
Sure, yeah. So, Horton hatches the egg. Well, now I've seen everything.
This is gonna sound weird, but I think I prefer the Seussical version of Horton hatches the egg.
Well, let's talk about that, actually. So you wanted to talk about a little bit of Seussical, to like kind of...
Since we were talking about the Horton stuff, I was like, hey, yeah. I've seen Seussical. I have it fresh in my memory. So I think I prefer the... So Seussical is very weird. Its main story is... So it's weird. It has Horton Hears the Who in the first half, and then it transitions into Hatches the Egg, while the Who story still goes on.
Right.
It's very weird. And
yeah, so the only connection I have with Seussical was I did the school play like in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade when I was a kid. And when I was in 5th grade, the school play was Seussical. So I don't remember what I played though.
You probably played Cindy Lou Who.
No.
Probably what's his name? Shit.
JoJo?
Yeah, you probably played JoJo.
No, I did not play JoJo. I never played anything outside of an ensemble character in those plays because, again, I was in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Like, I was a child. Like, you know what I might have been? I might have been either a cheetah or a leopard because, I was just one of those background animals. Like, I remember in 4th grade, we did Alice in Wonderland, and I was a penguin because I was one of the numerous animals during the dodo scene, even though there's not a penguin in the dodo scene in any version of Alice in Wonderland that I've seen. So
some elementary school is just like make up characters.
Yeah, they're just like, what do we put this stupid kid in? We have a penguin costume. Put him in a penguin costume. Put him in the dodo scene. Like, yeah.
Give him photo worthy moments for the parents.
Yeah, exactly. Even though I don't think there's any photos of.
But if you were a jungle animal, you were probably a part of the ensemble for Biggest Blameful in the Jungle of Newell.
Maybe. Honestly, I might just say that as fact, even though I have no proof of that. But that sounds likely. Again, like I'm pretty sure I was a cheetah or a leopard, whatever the spotted cat they wanted to throw in, in that random scene. Like, yeah.
But I prefer Hatches the Egg in this one because it's so fucking bizarre, like more bizarre than the movie, like except for the fish shooting itself. I have seen everything, bam.
Yeah.
But what happens is that unlike in the original, Lazy Love I think that's her name, just comes to the circus, sees Horton's there, and she's like, you know what, fuck you, you keep the egg, I don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
So Horton's just there with the egg. Then his love interest, the one feathered tail bird, I forgot her name. She's like, oh hey, I found your clover with the Who's of Whoville on there. And then Horton goes to fucking court. Dude, I'm not joking. He goes to court over him being on the egg in a circus and him saying that the Who's and Whoville exist on that clover. And they have every character from Hatches the Egg and Here's a Who just go against Horton. And then they're trying to kill the Who's while trying to take his egg away. It's so fucking crazy. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, a court scene sounds much more civilized than say, oh, we're gonna boil your flour in this hot witch's cauldron, and we're just gonna put you in a cage, like in the
they literally say like, you are sentenced to the criminally insane. and then the Wickersham brothers and the Sour Kangaroo start singing we're gonna boil in oil while they're also taking it's
Beazelnut, hot, hot, Beazelnut, hot, 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 hot.
They don't sing it like that. They just what happens is that they sing, so the entire courtroom's like one song, and then like when he gets sentenced, they're taking his egg while the Who's are saying we are here, but they're getting out spoken by them singing boil them until JoJo says yelp.
Yeah. Yop. Yeah, when he yops.
I think he just says yap.
Yap.
Yap. But I also remember in the musical, so the same thing happens in Hatches the Egg, where it's just an elephant with wings. But Horton's love interest and Horton decide to take care of the baby together. It's so weird because the mother of the egg is still there in the courtroom. So it's like, do you not care about this fucking thing you partially made?
Listen, she abandoned the egg, so fuck that bitch, you know? I guess.
Bro, go back to Euphoria or something, I don't know. Go back on HBO. Go back on HBO.
This is a certified Seussical moment.
But no, I don't care how you watch it. I recommend Seussical. It's very charming. Musical.
I'm gonna have to check it out. See, compare it to my years in the theater, of course.
Musical theater.
So, well, is there anything else we have to say about this Horton DVD before I decide whether I want to keep it or not?
I quite enjoyed it. There are some shorts I watch over others, but overall it's a solidly made selection of shorts, except for Daisy Head Maisie.
Yeah, that one's just weird. Well, honestly, though, I think it's the bonus shorts on this DVD that have kind of elevated me wanting to keep it. Because I think at first I was like, do I really want to keep this? Like, I'm pretty sure I still have that Grinch VHS that has the Horton Hears a Who at the end of it. But honestly, watching this DVD with the actual cartoon it's advertising, the Horton Hears a Who, but also including these 3 bonus cartoons, especially Hatches the Egg with the, well, now I've seen everything. Like, honestly, I gotta keep this DVD just for that alone. But all of these cartoons had their highs and lows in their own way that, honestly, I could see them again. I'd love to have this in the collection, is basically what I'm trying to say. So, it's a keep. It's a keep, ladies and gentlemen.
Keep. I remember the. No, it's funny. I remember the Battle Butter book, not associated with this DVD, but I think it was another one that had the Lorax.
That sounds about right. This seems like a DVD that would be in like a school library. Just to have.
It'd be like that one DVD in that giant collection of the Magic School Bus VHS.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just have like a bunch of just like movies that you have at like a school library that like kids can either rent or they're for like after school programs to like put on for kids to watch just to like keep them occupied. Like, yeah, no, that seems like the kind of aesthetic this DVD is going for. So,
I mean, it does its job well.
It does do its job well. I agree. So basically, it's a good DVD. I'm happy to have it in the collection. I'm happy that we got to experience these Suess stories in these very short, very nicely animated specials, so to say. Yeah, I agree with what you said earlier, that Suess in animated form and in short form, like short films or specials like this, work better.
And that's a perfect segue. So, okay, do you want me to say this for y'all? Because I can say it for you if you want.
I want you to take the blame for the next movie that we're talking about. This is your fault.
My crowning achievement in the House podcast, and I just started the first day. So what happened?
First day on the job.
So I wanted to do so this is the way I want to talk about the most. But Hal said, I want a DVD from the collection. And I found the Horton Hears a Who DVD. So it was perfect for me to talk about The Cat in the Hat from 2003, starring Mike Myers.
Look, I agree. This is the perfect DVD to go with this specific movie. I always try to have a bit of a theme. Sometimes, it's entirely random. Like when we talked about Norbit, we talked about Pathfinder, a couple episodes ago. Like
last episode, you talked about Tom and Jerry the movie, and then you just switched to Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah, that a little kind of relates.
I mean, they're basically TV movies, but they're very jarring in tone.
Yes. But basically, yes, it is nice to have a bit of a theme. Unfortunately, that theme is we have to now talk about The Cat in the Hat from 2003. Now, look, I completely understand, though. It's like, sooner or later, I would have had to have talked about this movie. It's an early 2000s terrible film. Like,
It's so bad, it actually caused a lawsuit saying you can't make live-action Dr. Seuss media anymore.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the way the story goes. Yes, yeah, basically, that is true. Like, how many other live-action Seuss movies are there? I think it is just The Grinch and The Cat in the Hat from the early 2000s.
I think I'd rather watch The Cat in the Hat over The Grinch.
Well, I think that's where we disagree. But not to say, I am in no way claiming that the Jim Carrey Grinch is good. It's awful.
Bad. It's really bad.
So bad. Both of these movies are bad.
They're both terribly made. But
yes.
The thing with The Grinch is it does something I hate in most media, whereas The Cat in the Hat, it's just so bad. I love it.
Well, so I think we can both agree that they're both bad adaptations. Let's focus a little more on The Cat in the Hat. I think we should focus.
Yeah. So I think we both saw the original Dr. Seuss short to kind of get an idea of how this movie works as an adaptation, right?
I did, yes. I chose to rewatch, because I think I saw it like years and years and years ago.
Same.
The original Cat in the Hat movie from like the 70s, like the short. Here's the thing. The Cat in the Hat, the original story, I think is one of those Seuss books I rarely ever read, actually. Like when I think of Seuss stories I read growing up, it was stuff like The Grinch, obviously, The Lorax.
You've read
Pop
your...
on Pop, like a lot of the random stuff you wouldn't even really think about. So Cat in the Hat was not one I read a ton. I think I did read it, but like this would have been when I was like 4. So
it's like one of those Seuss books where it's like, oh, you read it, but like when you think of Seuss, your mind just goes to like some of the more well-known ones, like Green Eggs and Ham.
I think Green Eggs and Ham was definitely one I read more than The Cat in the Hat. I think because The Cat in the Hat is so ubiquitous with
the Seuss branding,
it's kind of hard to tell, did I actually watch or read this book in any significant way or watch the cartoon in any significant way. So this was a good reminder to be like, oh, how is The Cat in the Hat supposed to be? Like that was my mindset when watching the original from the 70s. And I gotta say, we don't have to go into too much detail, but it is a nice short. I think it's kind of simplistic. Like, I don't know, like something about it.
I think the thing with this one that's not as high as the others is that it's not as weird or random.
Sure.
Like, it's just, like, the most random part is just the cat. That's it.
Yes.
But other than that, it's just him basically playing with the kids. That's it.
Yeah, it is very simplistic. But I think all things considered, that's kind of what makes the story so timeless. Like, it's just these kids, like, being bored on a rainy day and this cat coming in to, like, kind of spruce things up, to spice things up a little. You know, make things a little weird, a little unconventional. It's like, I feel like if I had read this a lot more often as a kid and watched the cartoon a lot more often as a kid, I probably would connect with it more. Whereas, you know, I feel like I am going to connect more with stuff like Horton or stuff like The Grinch more often. But
Yeah.
for what it is, the original 70s cartoon is pretty good, all things considered.
Yeah.
The 2003 movie, though.
It fails at everything.
So, yes.
So
it is such a failure. Like, oh my god, this is one of the worst adaptations of a beloved classic I have ever seen. Like,
So here's the first thing I noticed after watching the short. So I said this earlier, bloatedness. But this is the best example of how to not bloat a movie. Because there are movies that are based on books that, like, they work well. But the problem with Dr. Seuss movies being an hour and 30 minutes long or more is that it's not made to be an hour and 30 minutes long.
right, exactly.
Like like we said, the book, it's just the cat giving kids fun. This one, it just goes all over the fucking place. It's random, but for the wrong reasons. You have them, so it starts with them just, you know, playing. They just play, and then they create a mess, and then, oh no, our dog's gone. We gotta find our fucking dog, because apparently they had a dog, and not a goldfish. No, it makes no sense. And then it's them in the town trying to find a dog, trying to basically gatekeep the boyfriend to give them the lock in. Oh yeah, apparently the box is gonna end the fucking world apparently as well.
Oh my god, there's a lot we're not explaining. Yeah, but I see what it's good that you're, like, explaining this the way that you are, because these are things that happen. But then there's other things that happen that weren't in the original that this movie kind of puts at the forefront, you know?
Like, a boyfriend character.
Played by Alec Baldwin, the Boss Baby, Thomas and the Magic Railroad, that one movie that got canceled because he shot and killed somebody. This guy's been all over the place.
I'd rather watch Magic Railroad over this.
Oh, dude, I love Magic Railroad. But that's an episode for another time. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
But,
Alec Baldwin plays the next door neighbor who wants to fuck the mother, but
he says it in front of their kids as well.
Well,
and the kids are like, hey.
Well, his plan is to move in on to the mother, but he thinks the children are in the way, but they're not. Like, he's just like, I have to send the son to military school in order to bone his mother. It's like, why do you need to do that? Like, that you could just go out with the mother. Like, why is it because the son is such a misbehaving little shit that the mother's not focusing on fucking Alec Baldwin, but instead taking care of her son? What a whore, right? Like,
the mother being a good mother. Oh God, no. Yeah. That's too much right there.
Yeah. Well, so that's Alec Baldwin's character. I'm surprised Seuss didn't write him in the original story, because that's such a good character to put in a Dr. Seuss story. So let's talk about the kids. Let's start there.
The kids I don't mind the kids having personality, because even in the short, they're just kind of nothing characters. They were just there to, like, progress through the story.
They're vessels for the audience to, like, kind of put themselves into. Yes.
But you have your typical serious girl who's not taking no sass from no one.
Yeah.
And you have your chaos-driven boy. It's very stereotypical, even for the time.
Yes. No. So I agree. The kids in the original are a bit bland. And again, like I said, they are vessels for the audience. So I kind of get that. Even though they are vessels, they are completely, they're devoid of any personality. Whereas here, they have personality, But A, the acting on them is terrible, and B, the writing on them is even worse. Like,
you can
yes,
excuse the acting because it's kids,
because they're stupid children. Yes, I agree. So it's the writing that's the fault, because you have Conrad, who's the troublemaking boy, but he doesn't have a reason for being a troublemaking boy. The actor puts no effort into portraying that troublemaking boy. He's just like, I have to do this. It's like what a idiot thinks a Wes Anderson character talks like, you know, like who's like saying these outrageous things, but in such like a low tier kind of delivery. And then you have Dakota Fanning, who's a quote unquote control freak, even though, again, these characters are just saying these things. You know, they're just saying like, "Oh, I'm a control freak. I'm a troublemaker,"
but they're not showing it or giving us background on why, or like background, like saying, "Oh, they did this, that, this." Yeah. Like, no. We just see Conrad going down the fucking stairs on whatever the fuck, I don't remember, and then the girl, I don't give a shit about their names at this point. Just typing things on her fucking like NGO or Samsung smartphone. I don't fucking know. Okay,
it's like a Newton, I think. No, I don't know. I'm thinking of a Newton from like that one Simpsons episode where they like use a Newton. They say beat up Martin, and then it changes to eat up Marvin or something like that. But yeah, no, these are not. I get what they're going for. They're going for actually characterizing the children. They just didn't characterize the children. So you're just like.
You're kind of going one step forward, 3 steps back in that scenario.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of 1 step forward, 3 steps back, let's move on to the cat himself, played by
the cat is so uncanny. They fucked it up harder than even the Grinch movie. They kind of got him right.
Yes. Oh yeah. I will compliment the Grinch, the Jim Carrey Grinch, for actually having Jim Carrey be a pretty good Grinch. Not only does he make the character his own, he is able to articulate and move in that costume and all that makeup. Like, he makes the character work. I don't think the movie's very good, but I think what he does is really good. Like, that's what elevates that movie.
He is the best part of the movie, but it's everything around him that's bad.
Yes.
Love triangle.
Yes, exactly. Whereas in here, Mike Myers, yes, the costuming, the makeup, it's all wrong.
It's shit. You can tell it's a face. You can tell it's a face. You can
tell it's a face. You could tell it's like this big, like, uncomfortable costume. You could tell how uncomfortable he looks. Like, he genuinely looks like he's just
kind of want to know
struggling.
What he thought. I kind of want to know what he thought. I want to know what he thought. I want to hear what he said about him doing that deleted scene where he's cleaning himself.
Oh,
that's an actual deleted scene of him licking his area, and the kids are reacting to it as well.
Oh wow, that's great that they deleted it.
You can put it on screen if you want. I'm not forcing you to.
Why? Because I can.
Well, there it is. I put it on screen. So,
but like, and also the problem with the cat in the hat in this movie is it's nothing. It's discount. I'm gonna call it discount Homer Simpson.
In a way, I can see that. Yes. Yeah. So here's the thing with the Cat in the Hat as a character. He is a very weird and out there kind of character. He's like, I want to say he's like kind of a mixture of like, let's say, like, because he has a bit of Bugs Bunny in him. He has a bit of Mickey Mouse. He has a bit of Kermit the Frog. He's kind of like every popular character rolled into one, but not in an egregiously obvious way. Like, he is kind of his own character, but he has aspects of like these very popular cartoon characters. And so I feel like that's what this movie's trying to do. It's trying to hone in on these specific traits that other cartoon characters have had before.
But the thing about the cat is that he's not out there. He's also calm.
Yes.
He has this calm demeanor. When he first shows up at the house, he's like, "Oh, hey, sorry, I'm wiping my feet." So he's just this calm, kind of chill guy. Like, sure,
Yes.
he's a little out there for a cat, for like a humanoid cat. But, like,
A 6-foot walking humanoid cat. Yes.
yeah, but like he's just like even when he's serious, he's like, "Oh, hey, can you help me find this thing?" Basically, and when the fish tells him no, he's kind of like he's not like. It's hard to describe.
No, I get what you're saying though. Like he's not a one-liner spewing like Mike Myers character. He is a timeless, goofy character.
He's a cat version of Kermit.
I can see that. Yeah, that's why I said like, yeah, he's kind of like Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny or Kermit, like because he is like those characters where he's this like iconic good moral character that we love so much. And he does have a bit of Bugs Bunny in him where he is a bit of a troublemaker, but not for any malicious reason, like say Bugs Bunny. He does so, to be goofy, to be, the opposite of being malicious. He's doing so to be goofy, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
All of that in mind, Mike Myers is going for a joke spewing character where he's just like saying one-liners. He's being comedic for the sake of being comedic. He's being a little trollster. Like he's doing the cat all wrong. Like, and not only that, like the performance itself, again, like we were saying with the costuming and the makeup, is restraining him. So then the way he's delivering these lines feels so forced. The way he's like, moving around in that awkward costume is also forced. And so it's just awkward. Like you're just sitting there like, this is embarrassing and pathetic. Like no wonder Mike Myers didn't do a lot of movies after this and stuff like The Love Guru. Like you can tell, like you don't see him that much anymore
because this movie bombed his reputation.
Yeah, no, like again, like I think it was the Doug Walker video where like he talked about how Mike Myers was like this huge star back in like the 90s and the early 2000s thanks to stuff like SNL, Austin Powers, Shrek especially, like, like these movies and stuff that he was in. He was like on top of the freaking world. And then he did The Cat in the Hat. And yeah, you don't really hear from him that much anymore. Like occasionally
I only know him outside of after Cat in the Hat. The only thing I know he's in is the fucking Shrek sequels.
Yeah, which I mean, I like Shrek 2.
I like Shrek 2 and especially Shrek 4, but Shrek the Third, no.
No. But that's what I'm saying. Like, just because I think they were really riding on, because again, with the Jim Carrey Grinch, they're like, hey, we have this hit on our hands. It wasn't great, but Jim Carrey, this comedy legend in this role, worked out really well. Let's replicate that by putting Mike Myers, this comedy legend, in the role. And it fell flat on its fucking face.
It's just, you kind of feel bad for these actors who are just playing a role in a movie, and it just, the movie doesn't turn off well, and they just, they go down the drain.
Yeah, let me say, I do feel bad for these actors. I don't blame Myers for why this movie doesn't work. I don't blame actors like Kelly Preston, who plays the mother, or Sean Hayes, who plays the boss and the fish. Like, Sean Hayes in this movie is probably one of the best actors in the movie, just because he's going all out. Like, remember, like, at the beginning when he's like, Mr. Humberflube, and like, that new employee like tries to shake his hand and he goes, fired, you're fired. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, that was so...
That's like an actually unironic funny part of the movie. Yeah, actual unironic funny.
How he's just like, Joan, if your house is as messy as last year, you're fired! Yeah. Like, it's not a great performance, but he's trying so hard. I love Sean Hayes.
He's trying hard to be out. He's trying to be out there like a Suess character, and it works.
I'm a huge fan of Will and Grace, so I'm a huge Sean Hayes fan, and he does work just because he's the only one who's able to try, because he's like this wacky character, but he's not he's not like Myers where he's in this like gigantic fursuit and has all this makeup on his face. Like he can just be Sean Hayes in a green suit. It's not a good Dr. Seuss character, but for being in a terrible movie, he's one of the very few things that can bring me joy, which is a shame because then he voices the fish. I'm like, oh, we get more Sean Hayes tomfoolery. It's like, no, we get it in this butt ugly CGI fish that looks terrible. Like, so
the fish does look
the fish
awful.
looks terrible. So terrible. I'll even say Alec Baldwin. I don't feel bad for Alec Baldwin. I don't like Alec Baldwin. I think
Alec Baldwin has some interesting choices, let's say.
But I don't like him as a person, but like the fact that he can at least be entertaining in this movie, like the fact that I think it's the fact that he's so uncharismatic that I kind of find his inclusion in this movie hilarious. Like the fact that he's just there and he's just Alec Baldwin is so funny to me. Like,
yeah.
But like again, him, Sean Hayes, like Kelly Preston's even trying. Like these are actors who are normally better in other things. And, like, they're not the greatest here, but, like, there's something. Like, because I'm grasping at straws at the actual Seuss aspects of this movie, and Mike Myers trying too hard, that, like, things like Alec Baldwin and Sean Hayes and Kelly Preston are what I have left to grasp onto. And they're not even that prominent in the movie, which is weird because
they're
it's like
10
why have
minutes,
them?
maybe?
Yeah, if anything.
And there are also the things. Thing 1 and Thing 2.
Let's talk about things 1 and 2. The characters who are... So, again, not to steal from Doug Walker again, but I kind of have to because his video is so good at pointing out all the problems with this movie. You know, what works best in either animation or hand-drawn in a book does not work in live action. And yeah, the things... They look awful because the makeup is all this caked on.
They look like clowns.
They look like scary clowns. And yeah, they are not appealing to the eye in the slightest. And it's why? Why do they look like that?
Another thing that doesn't work about the things is like it's just part of the filmmaking process.
Yeah,
because the things were like in the original, they're like these like fast outgoing people, basically. These things they're fast and outgoing. Their solution is to literally have speed up the footage. It doesn't look good, and there's like this after blur. There's this after blur. It's so. The one thing this movie even fails at filmmaking, fails at editing at points, and it's just. I feel like I could do better.
I think you raise a good point, though. The fact that it's so obvious that they speed up the footage on the actors playing the things. Whereas in animation, you can have characters move at different speeds and not make it seem awkward that you're putting them at different speeds.
Because animation's exaggerated. It's meant to be exaggerated. But when you do it in live action...
things. Yeah, and in live action, when you exaggerate things, it's obvious that you're exaggerating things.
It's obvious you're exaggerating, and it's most likely going to be off-putting and not going to look good.
Yeah. No, it looks horrible. It looks horrendous. Yeah, no, I don't like it. I don't like how the things look. I don't like how they move. It's weird. What were they thinking?
The filmmaking nerd in me finally came through.
Yeah, so I don't like that. I don't like the babysitter they put in there for no reason.
I remember in one
Mrs. Kwan.
I just remember there was this meme in the Schaeferless Discord server where there was like this whole thing about just the close up of Mrs. Wong from the door hint, the door thing. It was just Mrs. Wong's cherry at it, and they beamed the hell out of it. You just posted there like you just got Mrs. Wong.
You just got Mrs. Kwan.
Yeah.
Ride the Kwan.
Why
no more big government.
Okay, so yeah, this movie fails, but I love it because it's so poorly made. It's so bad that it's honestly ironically funny.
I can sympathize. I am a huge believer in loving bad movies that are so bad you can't help but admire them. You know, I'm a huge fan of Morbius, not because it's good, because it's awful. I'm a huge fan of stuff like, oh God, like just such failures like Faust, Love of the Damned, like Showgirls. Like these are movies that are so terrible and they fail at everything they do that I can't help but love them. So I completely sympathize with that. I don't get any of that from The Cat in the Hat, though. I don't love this movie at all because it's just bad. But I will agree there are moments that I think are so unfunny and stupid that I can't help but love them. I'm going to have to be honest. I know Doug Walker hates this scene, but I love it with all my heart. The dirty hoe scene.
Oh my God.
Classic.
Yes. It's so fun. It's so out of nowhere. It's funny.
Well, so to bring it back to Horton hatches the egg with the fucking, well, now I've seen everything fish shooting scene. It is the exact same kind of energy. It comes out of nowhere. It is so out of place. You could cut it out entirely and nothing changes, but I'm glad that it's in there because it is so stupid. But you know what? I love Horton hatches the egg, the fish shooting scene even more, but the dirty hoe, I can't get enough of that.
I'm sorry, baby, I love you.
I'm sorry, baby, I love you. Yeah, the way he says dirty hoe just is ingrained into my mind. It's so quotable and it's so funny.
This is one of the most quotable movies for me, up there with Scott Pilgrim versus the World and Spider-Man 3, where I have a book of quotes I kept ever since I was in high school. Nearly an entire page is Cat in the Hat. I'm not joking. I could say stuff like, I'll get you, it'll look like a bloody accident. Or the fucking Plan A to C scene.
I love some of my personal favorite quotes are when the cat is like dressed up for tennis and he goes like, love that new ball smell. That and the scene when Alec Baldwin is driving in his car and he has the dog and the dog like pisses on his taco and he goes, I can't believe you whizzed on my taco.
Oh my God.
So look, moments like that, I agree. I think those are so laughably stupid that I kind of love those moments.
There are also some scenes where, like, you watch them as a kid and you're like, oh, that's pretty random. But you're an adult and you see that the cat's hat going up is basically the cat having a boner over the photo of their mom.
See, that I kind of love because, like, he, like, pulls the picture apart like it's a Playboy magazine. It's like, okay, that is so stupid, but I kind of love how stupid that is. And then he has the hat boner. He's like,
that's
awkward.
Her mom. Awkward. And he does, and it shows up again when the fucking slip and slide segment where he's on a lawn chair looking at that photo, acting like it's a Playboy cat.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the log flume joke where he's just like, you mean at Universal Studios?
Cha-ching!
Yeah, exactly. That's another example of so terrible. But
the pinata scene. When I did one, here's a funny story. So I'll send you a photo. So
please.
I was watching this movie again, and I had to go to the bathroom, so I paused it. I went to the bathroom. I came back, and I paused on the cat, like with him hanged up as a pinata, and it looks like he hanged himself.
I might make that the thumbnail of him
just
hanging himself.
I'll send you the photo.
Either that or no. I know Buster wanted me to include the scene where he inflates himself in the thumbnail too.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, the cat just inflates himself, and I'm like, oh.
I need there, easy on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
This movie is so bad, but but it's so bad. It's funny. There are some things that are actually funny, like the fire does it, like that scene, actual unironic funny. And when you're adult, there are things you'll find funny now, but it's such a awful movie. It is it's not one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I'd still watch this over Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah, no. When I think of like the worst things I've ever seen, is this a part of that? No, because I can get ironic enjoyment out of it. It's just not something I would watch as often as other ironic masterpieces in my mind. Like, I would sooner watch Faust or Morbius over this. I often think back to my earliest memory of this movie, and it was when I was a really little kid, and I think I was at, I don't want to say a friend's house, because this is one of those like friends where technically, they're children of your mother's friends.
Oh, it's like their moms like knew each other. They talk and like,
yeah,
like,
they're
hey,
friends.
here are my kids and here's my kids, and you have to hang out in big quotations.
Yeah, but you're not like you don't really hate these kids, but you can't really classify them as like close friends. Like you're like, yeah, I'll hang out with them. That's cool.
You're like hey, wanna play? Sure,
sure, whatever. Yeah, that level of friend's house I went to, and we put on The Cat in the Hat because I guess they had it on DVD. And we started watching it, and then like 5 minutes in, we just got up and just abandoned the TV. We just let it kept going. And I remember walking back into the room like maybe an hour later, and it was the scene where the house is destroyed and the kids are yelling at the cat. And I remember seeing that, having only seen the first 5 minutes of the movie, and then getting to that scene, and I'm like, what the hell happened? Like, what is this?
I just went away for an hour to play with Thomas Choice. What happened to this?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that was my earliest memory of the movie. It never held my attention for long enough for me to actually watch through it. I didn't watch through it all the way until I was like an adult, because like I remember seeing the Nostalgia Critic video on it a couple of times before I actually watched the actual movie. So this is technically my second time watching through it all the way through, I'd say.
Wow.
But again, it's not one that I connected with as a kid or as an adult. I like the scenes that I like, obviously for ironic reasons. There's no like non-ironic things I like about this movie. It is purely ironic. But it's not enough for me to claim it as something that I can see myself revisiting, years from now. Like, maybe I can force James to watch it someday, but I don't. That's not something that's at the top of my list to do. Like, if I were to ever rewatch this movie in any capacity, it would just be the Nostalgia Critic video. Which, it's funny that we're talking about this, because I think like a week or so ago he uploaded the original cut of his Cat in the Hat review. Because for years on the Channel Awesome channel, they had a version of the Cat in the Hat review up on, but it was like an edited version where they had to cut out a certain segment because of copyright reasons. But recently he uploaded the entire unedited, well, he's kind of edited it, because, there's the scene where like, he's on the swing after he gets like nailed in the balls. And it's like, easy on Sunday morning.
Yep.
Yeah, they had to cut out, like in the re-upload, they had to, put like a different song over that, just for copyright reasons. Yeah. But they still have that segment. So I was rewatching that this morning, that video, and yeah, no, it holds up exceptionally well. I think Doug really nails what is wrong with this movie. Like, it's one of the earliest Nostalgia Critics I remember watching and just like really thinking about what he was saying, and really thinking about, what is it I want out of a movie? What is it I want out of something I grew up on? Like, what do I want out of cinema, basically? And I remember that was one of the earliest videos. I think I connect more with the Lorax video because that was an actual movie I watched, whereas, like I said, The Cat in the Hat is a movie I knew about, but I rarely ever watched it. So it's still a video I hold near and dear to the kind of person I became in terms of what I look for in films,
Yeah. I think part of the reason why I can sit through this is because I watched this. I have a lot of nostalgia for this movie. I had a DVD of it as a kid, and me, my sister, my older brother, and my father would watch it from every now, not every fucking day. No. But like, it's not like as like back then, like our Lilo and Stitch. It was just a movie you watch out. It was like one of those movies you watch every now and again, and just watching it, I don't know. Maybe it's because, maybe because of that, I can like, yeah, it's bad. Like, maybe that's why I can suffer it, because I've seen it before, and like, also thanks to the internet, I can love it ironically. Unlike something like 8 Crazy Nights, I had to mention it, where it's like, where I watched it recently, I had to take a break every 5 minutes. It was that bad. It's just
8 Crazy Nights. Yeah, that's another one of those. Because I think I was talking about this with Perry last episode when we talked about Tom and Jerry the movie. There are those movies that you feel like, because the Nostalgia Critic video on them were so prominent for years, there's kind of been this backlash that has built up over the years where people are like, actually, this movie that Doug Walker hates is actually pretty good. And, or people are just like, I don't care what he says. I still like this movie for ironic reasons. It's like, some movies I can understand that with.
Mm-hmm.
But something like Tom and Jerry the movie or 8 Crazy Nights, no. He really nailed it with those videos. Like, those movies are fucking dog shit. Like, they're not very good.
If I audibly almost throw up over the scene of Whitey being covered in brown stuff, let's say, you failed as a movie. Let's say that you failed as a movie.
No. 8 Crazy Nights. What an awful
that needs to be the next Christmas special.
Well, I already did 8 Crazy Nights with
it a yearly occasion with different people. Then
I guess I got to make it a yearly occasion. Okay, next Christmas, 8 Crazy Nights again.
But no, this movie's bad.
Yes,
I don't think I'll watch it soon.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's gonna be in my mind, and whenever one of my closest friends call on Discord, we'll just quote it every now and again because the quotes are funny.
Yeah. I can't say this is the worst thing I've talked about on the podcast. Far from it. Like, It's bad. I think Doug really nails it in his video. I do think that's one of his best videos. But I don't think it's bad enough that I can get, such enjoyment out of it where I could see myself revisiting this as often as, like, again, something like Morbius. I could pop on Morbius tonight with friends, and like, I would have such a hoot. Like, that is one of those movies where, like, I can just have fun with it.
I could watch Star Wars Episode 2 and have a laugh.
Dude, the prequels are perfect examples. I have never had a bad experience watching the prequels. I don't think they're very good. I've definitely grown more critical of them over the years, but I will watch them till the day I die because they are so much fun to me. Like, oh my God, so many quotable moments.
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
Now this is where the fun begins.
Yeah.
Liar.
So many good moments.
Yeah.
So I think that with that all said, The Cat in the Hat, terrible movie, but not terrible enough that it's a movie I want to own ironically, like Morbius, like Faust, like the Star Wars Holiday Special. Like, those to me are my special, so bad they're good movies.
Yeah.
So I can't see myself owning this. I can't see it being added to the collection.
Add it to the disc ornaments alongside Saving Christmas. Then.
Yeah. Well, actually, I wanted to ask, but do you have a bit of a physical media collection yourself, or do you want to own this ever physically?
I've been growing my physical media collection. Just recently, I bought some Doctor Who Blu-rays.
Nice.
Nah, I think I'll get at the moment. I'll pick up my own copy in the future at some point.
Yeah. No, I get that.
But if I ever don't find one for a good price, I'll ask you eventually.
Oh, I don't own it. So.
Oh, you don't own it. Oh,
no.
You put it in the dumpster alongside ET Atari cartridges.
Yeah. No, I've never owned it. I don't intend to ever own it. So, but
maybe, yeah. I can understand that. Maybe one day I'll pick up a copy for ironic reasons.
No, I completely sympathize with that. For ironic reasons, sure, I completely get that. Just not for me.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Aidan, is there anything else we have to say before we wrap things up?
Not really, no, aside from...
Well, this is the part of the show, then, where you can shout out your stuff. Aidan, where can people find you?
Okay, so I have a YouTube channel, obviously. So I have a YouTube. You can find out what I've been watching, playing, listening to on Twitter with a media thread, or just like my Twitter in general. I also have a letterbox because movie fan, obviously. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's really about it. Just my typical channel, Twitter, and Letterboxd.
Nice. Yeah, all your links will be in the description below. So,
This is fun.
Yeah, no, dude. Thank you for coming on. I make jokes sometimes whenever a person comes on and is just like, let's talk about this terrible movie. And I'm always just like, I got to talk about this terrible movie. But you know what? I love discussing terrible films. So thank you so much for coming on to discuss The Cat in the Hat 2003, but also to discuss this Horton Hears a Who DVD.
It was just fun in general.
Yeah, no, I love discussing films. Bad, good, doesn't matter. So thank you so much for coming on, dude.
No problem.
And thank you, the listener, for listening to today's episode. If you want to support the show, give a like, give a comment. Listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or on YouTube. That's fine too. Doesn't matter.
Fuck. I forgot to link my podcast.
Well, link it now. What's your podcast, dude?
So my podcast is called The Anonymous Gamers. We talk about video games, and we are most prominent on YouTube, but we also have a Spotify.
Nice. Yeah, that'll also be linked in the description as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Well, now I've seen everything.